Just under 2.5 years ago, I did a video on how to grow Royal Poinciana from seed. Now, since I did that original video, every one of those seeds has now germinated. So there's been a range of success and a range of vigor in terms of the growth that has come through from those trees, especially given that some of them I've planted in big pots, some of them I've planted in smaller pots, and some of them I've also planted in the ground. So this particular Royal Poinciana here has grown quite well. Now, it hasn't been planted in the ground, it's just been planted in a pot. Yet this pot allowed it to grow some fairly vigorous roots into the soil. So yeah, as you can see, it's gotten quite thick. So it is now the start of autumn, so that's March in Australia. And as a result, it's not really the optimal time to be doing a repotting. But given that I've got quite a thick trunk in this already, and I'm really going to want to start getting a bit of refinement going in terms of establishing new branches, and I've got a bit of a problem occurring in the root system which I want to fix, so I thought it would be an appropriate time to repot this. Now, I do have a range of others that are growing, so yeah, there's the one which is growing in the ground, which is also getting quite thick, and a lot of my other ones in larger pots are also starting to grow roots into the soil and really starting to get a lot of vigor. So over the last year and a half or so since I've done my latest update on these, I've been doing a lot of really just letting it grow and then pruning it back to taper. That's been working quite well, and yeah, I've got plenty of others that I'll be able to turn into bonsai down the road. So if this tree doesn't really cope that well from today's exercise, then it's not too much of a loss. But that being said, I've had a lot of success so far with repotting, particularly jacarandas, but also Royal Poincianas around this time of year. So it's really just going to depend on what kind of soil I put it in, where I position it in my yard in terms of sunlight and how much of a brunt of that it gets. And also just the watering regime and everything. So long as I treat it with a fair bit of care, I'm sure it will recover quite well. And losing a little bit of vigor leading up to winter, just based on the fact that it has to kind of reform itself in a new pot with less roots and everything, I don't think it's going to be too much of a loss, and it will let me start to fix some of the issues that are occurring with the root system. The first things first, I need to get it out of its pot, and it's got a few fairly large roots growing out the bottom, so I'm just trying to cut those back as flush as I can, just with my secateurs for now. See if it'll do the job. There we go. Now, before I go too far, there's this branch which you can see here, which is where I've pruned it back in the past. Start back, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And just clean it up a bit as well so it heals as flush as I can get it. Before I go too far, just given how tall and ungainly it is, I'm just going to prune it back a little bit. So prune the main leader there back. So yeah, quite a bit here. And I've done a lot of these, like I pruned this back just a few weeks ago, and so you can see how vigorously it's growing. But I've just pruned that back, so continuing with some of the kind of hard to see with all these leaves in the way, but continuing with this kind of faint S-bend in the trunk on that main leader. And then this is a side branch. Prune that back as well, just to prune it back to have a bit of directional pruning. So that's kind of the structure of the branches that I'm after. The main thing that I'm wanting to do is have a look at this this root here, which is just going around the place. Just want to see if I can fix it. In one of my prior updates, so the first update that I did on this these trees, I'd cut the root system back a bit, or at least I thought I had, so that it would be a lot more radial, but obviously some of the roots have grown out less so, and in ways that I haven't really wanted it to. So I'm trying to get in early to fix this if I can before these particular roots get too big. So yeah, big thick root that's coming around and seems to have not that many feeder roots at the back, which I was hoping for. I was hoping I could kind of get rid of this completely, but it's going to have to be a bit of a stage approach, I think. So this root here I can get rid of. Yeah, not many feeder roots at all coming off that one. And at least then the rest of those kind of come down a little bit better. So hopefully having this weird kind of, I don't know, I want to get rid of that eventually. So what I might do, just in the hopes that it will develop some more roots coming out more radially, just going to scrape off the top here. Just so when I repot that, hopefully they will grow out and then I can cut off this big one with time. But yeah, I'm gonna have to leave most of that for now. So yeah, there's not a lot I can do here and I don't want to cut off too many of all these roots. So I'm really just gonna have to just prune them back into profile a little bit. And then there's another one here which is coming around, so I'll prune that back a little bit further. Hopefully can get rid of that with the time. Okay, so the root system is really, yeah, it's not anywhere near at the stage that I want it for to try and develop it as a bonsai. So I was considering putting it back into the pot, but I kind of want the root system to grow out a bit more radially and not as deep. So for that purpose, I might try and put it in a bit of a shallower training pot. I'm going to put it in this. So first up, I'm just going to put some wire in so I can wire this down. Got my wire in and I'm just going to use the same soil I had, so I'm just putting some of that down and I've got to pick a front for this. So look, I could be using that as the front, given, yeah, it's got the nice movement in the trunk, it's got the side branch here kind of moving back and the front of the leader kind of moves towards you. So that's a good front, but the only problem with that front is I've got this big ugly root system, which I don't want. The other option is this side as the front, but the problem with this side as the front is you've got the big ugly blemish from where I've cut off two big branches in the past. The main leader kind of moves back away from you, and then yeah, the side branch is more pronounced than in the front. So I'm actually going to go with this side as the front, at least for now. That can change with time. Yeah, and I'll try and kind of cover that ugly root mass as much as I can. And just trim that wire. So now I can pack in the rest of the soil. And yeah, this is really good, nice organic soil, lots of bark and other aggregate in there to have a good draining as well. So yeah, covering up the bulk of that root, and then where I've kind of cut the edges, hopefully I'll get more kind of radial roots coming off the edge so I can fix up that big mess of roots. So now there's this little branch which is just coming straight out in front, so don't want that one. This branch coming out the side, that's fine, although I'll probably prune back this and just prune this back to a few less leaves just to kind of put it into profile. And also, given I've gotten rid of a fair bit of the root mass that was drawing in energy for the tree, I want a lot less green foliage for it to have to try and sustain. That branch there is definitely fine. We'll leave both of these. So yeah, really now just kind of prune this one back, just so you can kind of see the general kind of structure that I'm going for. And then prune these back again, just so there's some foliage, but not too much. And might just do the same with this branch. Alright, so yeah, so as you can see, in the last under less than 2.5 years since I originally planted these as a seed, and it's also grown, it's as thick as my thumb. At the base there, and yeah, really start to get a nice good bit of movement, but also taper in the trunk. So I guess the majority of the taper is up here, but yeah, especially having this branch down here, start getting a bit more taper through the trunk, and hopefully I'll get some further budding down below. So I could even just try to score the bark a little bit in a couple of places, in the hopes that I'll get some budding kind of, further down, just to establish that taper throughout the whole trunk. Still a long ways to go, but starting to get some good structure, and starting to get some work done on that terrible root system. So hopefully that'll improve a lot, and give me a lot more options to work with when I repot this next. So look, I hope you enjoyed this video or took something from it. If you have, then please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so that you're notified with my future videos as I release them. And make sure you do hit that little bell symbol just so that you're notified and you can be one of the first to view it. So look, thanks for your time today. Enjoy. Bye.